Hello, everyone. I'm Gemma Star, and welcome to another episode of Man Speak. Man Speak is an offshoot to our Heart Warrior series, where some of our Heart Warriors come back and have a whole episode talking about a topic of their choice, something they're embodied in, passionate about, able to teach in, and give great information about. Today's guest is the return of our number 46 Heart Warrior, and that is Steve X Mcnamara, who is another Aussie. Now, Steve's chosen topic is being a strong father in a changing world. So this is going to be very exciting. I'm really happy to be hearing about Steve's point of views around this subject, and it's definitely going to be an interesting conversation. So enjoy. Hello, Steve. So good to have you back, this time on Man Speak. I'll just pause. Okay, take two. And I'm not very good at video editing, so I'm just going to leave it in. Hey, Steve, number 46 Heart Warrior. Welcome back. This time to Man Speak. How are you?
Thank you so much. It's so good to be back and having a chat to you again, Gemma.
Yeah, great conversation we're going to get into today. Oh, I just wanted to say, I'm pretty sure I forgot to say in my intro that Steve is a coach, a breathwork facilitator, and host of the Wild Man Revolution podcast. So get that in now. Great conversation. Let's talk about strong fatherhood. What motivated you to choose this subject?
Well, it was really interesting, the timing, when you're like, what do you want to actually talk about? Because we had a great interview last time and covered a number of things, but it was really interesting. I had a scenario play out, and I did speak about this on the socials, and it tends to be very polarizing when I speak about certain issues with a bit of emotion. And I was actually out in a hairdresser. Now, I generally get my hair cut at home by a friend. I got my 4-year-old River. He's a highly energetic young boy, really cool. We hang out a lot, but we were out and we went. He wanted to go to this particular hairdressing salon in the shopping mall. I'm like, okay, cool. I lay it all out for him. Like, sometimes with kids, I believe anyway, and I've seen it. You've got to sell some things to them, but in an integral kind of way. So this is what I've done with River, because I know he's been resistant sometimes to get his hair cut in the past. And I'm like, all right, I'll lay it out. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go get the haircut. After that, we're going to go to the fun house, play a few games. We're going to go to lunch. Everything that he wanted before he asked to do anything. All he wanted to do was there. So I laid it all out for him, went in there, and he sat in the hairdresser's chair, which he's been to many times, and just started playing up. Just started ducking in, being a kid, being really withdrawn. Now, some might say he's shy. Yeah, not River. I could see the gleam in his eyes and everything. He could see he was like, whatever he was up to, whether he wanted more, whatever it was, he was being a 4-year-old, and he was not cooperating. And the women were lovely there at the start. They were like, they'd dealt with kids before, and that's why I was taking him there. And they were good, but then they were running out of patience, and I was like, come on, River, we've laid it all out. And he was just literally being, can I say non-compliant? I don't like saying that.
A little shit.
That's what he was. He was starting to be. Now, he's come out of the chair, and at this point, I was starting to get a little bit triggered myself, because I literally planned out this whole few hours. We've got to drive like half an hour into town. We don't have to do these things, but I've laid this out. I'm like, okay, if you're going to play this game, I can play this game too, buddy. Let's sit down over here. There's a seat in there. Let's sit down. Now, I've had to grab him and put him down, and he was like fighting me. He's a strong little bugger, which is cool. He was fighting me, and I'm like, what is the matter, buddy? Let's chat about it. Let's chat. There's people in here waiting, and I did my best to lay it out. And I have got my tonality was definitely up, because he needs to. This is my way of teaching a bit of respect without anything else. He needs to feel my energy and go, wait a sec, this actually isn't good enough, buddy. I see it as a good opportunity. I don't care if I'm out and about in public. I think it's a great opportunity to be seen like disciplining my son, but in a way that's my opinion, just strong. Now, he was starting to fight me, and he was like, I'll give context to this after. But the scenario played out, and I'm like grabbing his shoulders and sitting him down. I'm like, no, buddy, this is not good enough. We've come all the way in this for you to get your hair cut the way you wanted it. This is actually not acceptable. We need to work through this. What's up? Talk to me. What's the matter? Now, he pushed on me one more time, and I just grabbed his shoulders and sat him down. Next minute, over my shoulder, a lady comes up and she goes, you've got to leave. You're being too rough. So this scenario, it really, really did trigger something in me. And I'm like, wait a second. Okay, I'm in the middle of something here. You've come in and you're telling me not, hey, is everything okay? Hey, maybe go outside and do that. Or no, you've got to leave. You're being too rough. Now, I'm particular with this. I'm like, okay, cool. I understand this woman who works there. She's like definitely got a different model of the world. I get this. But like, I've turned around and I'm like, excuse me? I'm like, I'm being too rough. You're telling me how to like follow my son. He's in here creating a bit of a scene, and you're telling me I've got to leave and take it out? Oh, yeah, you're making everyone uncomfortable. You've been way too rough. So no engaging conversation. And I ended up leaving. I did speak my truth to her. I basically said, like, how dare you actually come and tell me how I should be disciplining my son? He's clearly a little bit out of line.
And him over the head, were you?
No, but I'm being strong with him. Absolutely.
Yeah. He's a much just like strong, firmly holding him down, were you?
And he's fired, holding him down. Yeah. And my tone is up. Yeah. I'm not gonna there. And so I ended up leaving. I was upset. Not at River. But how dare anyone, I don't care if they're a parent or anything, come into another parent and say, hey, you're being too rough.
Right, unless they're maybe physically harming the child.
If I give him a whack over the head or something, and again, I can give context. When I was growing up, I used to get the big wooden spoon. I used to get the strap. I get to this, and I will not take any of that back. Now, I'm not going to repeat it, but I'm not going to go, okay, he can just walk all over me in public especially. Right. I'm not going to, this is a great opportunity for him to actually learn a little bit of respect. That was my intent. Okay. And as soon as I started expressing myself, the lady confronted who worked there started having a go at me. You're being too rough. You're being too this, not good enough, and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, I want to talk to the owner, the manager. And she goes, I'm the manager. I'm like, wait a sec. You said that the people in here are uncomfortable. So you're the one uncomfortable. You've lied to me. You've interrupted me while I'm doing my best to father my own son. You have no idea how I father my son. And you have the nerve to do that. I said, I'm happy to go. But just know I've been coming here for a long time. All the other ladies have been fantastic. I just need to let you know that. I spoke my truth. I was pissed. But I was pissed at the fact, like, how dare anyone? This has happened a couple of times in public. Not from me disciplining my son. I've had ladies yell at me for him running around having fun in the supermarket, jumping in and out of the clothes. I've had pretty interesting too that it's been women. my beautiful queen had to pull me up on this. I'm like, I said something like, bloody women out in public, they don't get it, whatever. But she's like, hey, if that was a man, would you have reacted the same? And I said, yeah, I actually would have. And I unpacked it. I went and expressed myself to store management. I normally wouldn't do that, but I needed to get this out. The way I process things is like, I need to get this out. I'm fully expressed. I appreciate it when people are fully expressed. I don't bottle stuff up. I think that in my past, and for a lot of men, they suppress a lot of this stuff, or they bite their tongue, they bite their lip. No, if I was out of line, fair enough. I don't believe I was out of line. And this is a number of things were triggered with this. There was a man sitting next to me with his son, and he put his head down and was trying to hide from the situation. And I was like, what's that about? Like, there's this undercurrent in society where we can't be seen to be emotional, especially men. Like, we're aggressive, or we're too much, or we're toxic, and all this sort of stuff. I work with men. So this scenario played out. I expressed myself to the management. I said, I'm only here. This is not a complaint. I'm only here because I actually really need to just express this right now. And I know you're neutral because you don't. I said, I'm just really, really upset that someone in a shop that I've gone to, I would come in and be like this, and I just wanted to tell you that and just let you know it's part of my process. That's it. And the whole time, River's watching me. He models what I do. He models. If I'm angry and I suppress that stuff, what's he going to do? This is what runs through my head. I'm like, I want him to see me standing in my truth and speaking my truth, even if I'm not right sometimes, instead of the other thing, which is like avoiding or being abusive or from a place of projection. And after that, and no one else really knows this, we went and sat in the car for half an hour. He couldn't go to the game place, and we spoke about it. He's 4.5 years old, and we could actually speak about it, and we're cool.
All right, run me through that process. How did you speak to him? What did you say? What was the outcome?
So it's not a first time. Kids are kids. They're going to do things to test us. They're growing, they're learning. They can see when we're upset or not getting our attention or whatever, unhappy, and they'll play whatever they're playing because they're learning. And I sat in the car and I'm like, dude, I'm not happy. I'm seriously just not happy. We laid this day out. It was going to be a fun day. You wanted to go there, and I agreed. I'm like, yes, let's do this. The whole way I've been wanting you to, like, us to do this. What was the matter? Well, I just didn't want to do it. I'm like, do you think that would have been better to maybe tell me before we planned out this day? I go, how do you feel now we can't go to the fun house? And he's like, sad. I'm like, it's okay to feel sad. You don't want to feel sad. And we sort of unpack the emotions. We talk about emotions. We talk about feelings. And he clearly sees, he goes, you can clearly see I'm angry. And I go, I just want you to know. He's like, yes, I just want you to know I'm not angry at you. I'm angry just because of this situation. I'm angry. It's my anger. You know that, yeah? And he's like, yeah. And then I'm like, what do you want to do now?
Right.
And this was a slow process. It wasn't just simple back and forth, like he's sitting there and wanting to avoid it, wanting to there. But I'm like, we're sitting here till we at least talk about it. So that's how that unfolded. And again, it did trigger a lot of things in me around purpose, around mission, around how I see society. Might have been a simple interaction or altercation from the outside view, but for me, I'm like, it was a big reminder. I'm like, where have we got in society where, in my opinion, in my view, this lady was triggered because of her own stuff, right. Whether she'd been in an abusive relationship or whether she'd witnessed stuff or she had kids and she had her own view of how to do things. But where are we at a society where we can't actually be conscious of how we're parenting and show up in that way in public? Why do we need to hide away our emotions or be shamed? And that's how I seen this. She was trying to shame me for being too hard, too loud or whatever. I wasn't yelling, I wasn't screaming, I wasn't hitting.
Right.
I even had, when I did the live, it had comments going, oh, maybe this is great, Steve, but maybe you shouldn't have done this in public. I'm like, that's my point.
Right.
What have we got in society? What are the models our kids have got or we've had growing up in society of strong men? They're on TV. They're politicians. Maybe some sports stars, not taking away from the hard work they do. And this is not all of them, but that's what we've had to model energetically. Politicians all over the TV and on the news, they're compulsive liars. They twist their language with NLP. They talk to the unconscious. They're doublespeak. I understand and know this. I'm trained in this stuff. So that's what we've had to model as a society. Or like I say, sports stars, big time. Growing up, sporting is huge in Australia. But what happens when sports stars? Scandals. They always come up, drama. They're always pitted. This happened behind the scenes. And this is what we've modeled as men.
Right.
And women, and that's what we view. And this is like, again, why it really touched me on like purpose. And this is why I'm triggered, because why can't we express ourselves freely in society without the thought of someone just cutting in straight away and saying, no, you can't do that. You can't do that here because of my things. Yes, there's unhealthy. Yes, there's a point. Old mate, the man sitting next to me, ducking his head and shying away from it, he's clearly got his own stuff too. He had his little girl there.
Right.
I'm aware of all this too.
All right. Well, I'd like to keep this because we all know the only person we can change ever changes ourselves. We can't change that woman that yelled that asked you to leave. We can't change the man that cowered down. So let's focus on strong parenting, what we can do as fathers and for our children. So you've got River, who's 4, and is that your only child?
Yep, forever. He's enough energy.
One is enough. I'm an only child.
Yeah.
And just for the record, if anyone doesn't know, I've got 2 boys that are now 21 and 23. So
well, there you go.
Going to love this conversation.
Yeah.
I brought them up as a single mum, just putting context
Wow.
into any conversation that comes up later on. So I've got a couple of questions before we move on from this introduction scenario. Has River had his hair cut since?
Yeah, it was terrible too. Our friend come around and we had to sell it to him again because he had this experience, and this is what I'm aware. He had that experience with the hairdresser now. Seeing me be fully expressing that, that's sitting in his mind. It's sitting there. It's like, oh, I've got some resistance to this. But yeah, he was good in the end and got his hair cut. It's a bit rough, but
he'll do. It doesn't matter. So what are you going to do next time he says, can I go to the barber, the shopping centre and get my hair cut, Dad?
Yeah, well, this is an interesting one. We usually will prompt that. Well, like he's aware and he likes looking handsome. He likes that. We talk him up a bit. He likes dressing up. He likes looking neat. He's at that stage. He is very self-aware and self-conscious, but he's like me, significance-driven. He loves that attention. So I feel from now we've got like our friend who comes around and does it. She's amazing. We're going to stick with that. And it's really interesting. I think before that, that's what we were doing for the last 2 or 3 times. So this scenario presented itself for maybe me to unpack a few things. That's what I really see with this. So going forward, I think it's actually going to be really, really light and really easy. It's going to be like, hey, what's her name's coming around? We're getting a haircut today. Cool.
Okay, great. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Great. Give us a brief overview of your relationship with your dad as a child and now as an adult, please, Steve.
This is so important for context.
Yes.
So important. And it's been a big driver of mine. And I think there's a lot in society where we sort of demonize our parents for how they brought us up without us actually knowing, especially in the coaching space, because we do have to do a lot of healing from what we witnessed growing up and modeled energetically. Now, my dad was strong with me only because I had high energy, but he was not there a lot. He worked very hard. He was a builder. He didn't have many things go his way for the hard work he put in. I think he had a lot of letdowns, and I could feel that from him. But he would work. He'd be away at work before I got up in the morning. He'd come home at night. He'd generally do some stuff like he'd build our own house and these sorts of things. He'd potter around. He'd have a few beers after work and sit down and watch the news. Now, that was every day. A few beers every day. Now, again, you look at it and he's like, alcoholic, yeah, but he was not one to get drunk every night. But that was his routine. The weekends, he'd generally work half a Saturday or whatever. I'd sometimes go to work with him, depends how old I was, even when I was really little, which I really loved, apart from the cigarette smoking in the little ute on the way down there with the window closed on the way home. Everything else was good. But on the Sundays of every week, he'd make a real effort to take me somewhere or do something or be there. And the wild man part of me, so many of the skills and so many of the things I have in the bush and that come from him. Not just teaching me, but opening me up to that world and consistently having me in nature. And without that, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So I am extremely grateful. But some of the things that I definitely modeled is when my energy was too much, or he definitely had no awareness or focus on himself. It was like stimulate the nervous system every night. I've worked really hard. I'm providing. That was his thing. I've got to provide for the family and I need to chill. A few beers. No capacity really to engage or anything like that. And again, he was very strong and very hard, but it was when like I would be extremely high energy and clearly not getting attention or whatever I wanted. Yeah. Very, very clear. And I have done and continue to do a lot of healing around that. Mm. And it's very, very aware when I have situations like this, instead of coming from a place of, I don't want to be like my dad, it's like, well, I'm carving my own path here. Like I've got the evidence of all I need of how I don't want to show up. I think I know what I'm doing showing up, I'm going to do my best at that.
Yeah, look, I love your passion around this, Steve. And I always had the attitude that you only ever get one chance at parenting per child. And I just knew I wanted no regrets. I mean, I'm not saying I was the perfect parent, but I know I totally did my best that I could every day with what I had. And I can see that in you, your passion, the dedication to your son. So I really admire you for that. So I'm not sure where you wanted to take this conversation, but I do have a few things written down, and, such as, I was going to throw at you and see what your attitude and opinion was around children. And I know River's 4, and we can go through a few things that are obviously going to come up in his life as he goes through his teenage years. Are you okay with that?
100%. Yeah.
Great. So the first one I've got written down is screen time. What's the situation now? And we'll talk about iPads, television, both of those together. What's your opinion around that? And what are you doing with River at 4?
Oh, that is such a great question, and it's an interesting one because we have had the experience with River. Definitely because my beautiful queen Chaitanya, when she was going through a lot and being new parents, and again, not really knowing the way but doing our best, we had a lot of stuff come up, and there was times where we didn't have the capacity for River. It was really handy to have an iPad there, really handy. But what we found in time, and we've definitely grown through this, is how he was. If he watched it, he would be really aggressive, like even when he was like young, even if it was a simple cartoon, didn't matter. It was just having something there that was his or whatever. And then if it was for any prolonged time, an hour or more, you would have to fight to get it off him. And then after that, he would be a shit. Now, in time, we needed to wean him off that. Now, it wasn't excessive. We weren't having it there too much. We've had nannies all the way through. Right. So, but to get some contrast there, up until now, we've got a TV. We love watching movies. I watch movies to watch what they're trying to program us with. But I also once every few weeks, I go to the movies with River. We love it. We love some of the superheroes. Although I'm aware of the programming and stuff, we like spending that time together. But where he's at now is really, really good, because even he understands now how he is if he's stuck in front of, say, a TV to watch a whole movie, 2.5 hours, long time. And he's cranky after it. And I'm like, hey, do you remember how you used to be with that iPad? And he's like, yeah, it's like he understands it now. So we're really conscious of it. And I do see with him, if there are times, again, it might be raining and stuff and all our plans are changed and we're stuck at home and all that, we will sit and do some stuff. We might play a game or something on a screen or something like that. And he's definitely a different kid, and even myself. And I think this is the important thing. I do a lot of stuff on socials and all the screens, interviews, and all this sort of thing. I mean, I do a lot in the crypto space. I'm in front of screens a lot. And again, our kids model us. And then for me to be in integrity or congruent with what I'm doing with him, I've got to be conscious of this. And it's something that I'll be honest, it's something that I really need to have stronger boundaries around, or pick up on my boundaries when I'm caught up on the screen a lot. Same as my beautiful queen. And I'm grateful I got her, because she's pretty sharp on it with me. Maybe she's not too congruent with her own sometimes, but both of us, it is something that I think is a constant, and I think it's going to be even more so coming into the future for kids and humans in general. Like, we're literally, they're trying to integrate us with this stuff, and what happens, it starts with the kids. But I think it comes back to having strong boundaries with yourself, knowing your intent. Why, like, I'm not one to not like technology. I think it plays a huge part in our future. I think it plays a part in making a lot of things more effective and more efficient for us, as long as we're in alignment with our intent. And I can see our kids, they make the most of it. Again, I do a lot in the digital crypto space. There's a lot of stuff in there that could be to the detriment of humanity, but there's a lot of good decentralization. Right. I actually do want River to understand this as we grow up, because it's going to be such an integrated part of society. So it is a polarizing topic. It's
It's fascinating because even in, I think back to when I brought my boys up, and I mean, then there were really only desktops. We had the little flip top phones. We weren't up to smartphones, and it was enough to put the computer desk in a corner in the lounge room or wherever. And if they were on it, of course, you could monitor what they were on. They got into high school, smartphones came in. And of course, once they've got a smartphone, they're in their bedroom, they've got it at school, and you can no longer monitor what is on it. And of course, we know from other conversations on Heart Warriors, that's often a young boy, even pre-teenage, first introduction to porn.
Yeah.
How are you going to deal with that?
I just have to do my best and trust. And I think this is the thing with it. I'm not going to be one to put limitations on devices and that. I've already thought about this. Again, because I also understand things like porn and what we've got access to. And my focus is more on how can we govern society from a decentralized way to have them sort of governing boundaries in with all the systems and all the infrastructure that we've got. Again, blockchain technology, which everything's going to, which is underlying more than cryptocurrency. It's under all Web3 developments and stuff like this, what is integrated into these systems. But then what is in the devices or what is in the programming that the kids can take in, their limitations are already in. I would rather see it come that way from whatever is governing society. Again, decentralized, not someone saying do this, do that, but whatever is in there in the smart contract system. And then the devices are then sort of limited versus me going, I'm going to turn that off for you. I'm the one who has the power to turn that off. I think as society as a whole, we need to sort of tackle this as a whole, because at the end of the day, teenage boy got a smartphone, they can get curious, and there's hooks everywhere. Not just porn, there are hooks everywhere. I just think as society we could come together better and manage it or lead it better. I do. Because the other thing that comes with that too is I think back to my teenage years. Everything my mum and dad said don't do, I freaking did. So imagine me coming in and say, you can't watch this, you can't do this, you can't have that. I don't operate that way. I do my best to break down things that you're going to get a lesson from that, buddy. Right. Go for it. That's the way I'd rather do it.
Got you. Nice. All right. Social media. I mean, who knows what will be happening in 10 years? Well, let's even say he comes to you at 7 and there's some kids' social media out. That's how they lure them in, isn't it? Like a soft version of TikTok or Facebook or whatever. What are you going to say at 7, at 10? When are you going to allow him to have full access to social media?
So interesting, because I show pictures of my son. We do videos all the time. I'm very, very conscious and aware of this, and I understand all the nefarious things that are at play behind it. So I have had to think about this constantly. And again, if he's modeling what I'm doing and it's okay for me to show up and add value and all this thing, the way I'd lead him is like, okay, you want to do that. What value are you adding to the world? What place are you coming from? I talk about intention. He doesn't fully get it, but I talk about that stuff. So that's the way I'm going to tackle it. And again, I think as parents, like, we have to trust. Like, I did the opposite of all my parents. I used to live up in the backyard. My mum will be horrified at this, but anyway, live in the backyard. I used to sneak out every night. Like, as soon as the lights are out, I'm off to town. I'm off doing stupid teenage shit because they said, no, that's bad. Like, has anything really changed except maybe things are more accessible now?
Yeah, and I love this. And I mean, obviously, I spoke to someone, I can't remember who it was. We were talking about raising boys and girls, and they suggested that before the age of 7, they're pretty much the same, and then once after 7 and into teenage years you have to treat them differently, and especially men boys learning through initiation and challenge. And he was really encouraging mums to let go of their sons and just let them be and make mistakes and learn and be a man without the mother. This is just your perspective, obviously, because you don't have a little girl, but what are your ideas and opinions around raising boys and girls?
This is such a good question. I think it even gives a little bit more context to how I was with River and the hairdresser. I was very strong with him.
Right.
We wrestle every day. I push him in a healthy way, in strong and wrestle. And even last night, we're playing on the grass with the ball. And we're rough as, but in a strong way. Like, come on, push, like, get that energy going. That's one difference. I wouldn't be like that with a girl. Now, if she wanted to be like that, I probably would entice it, but I would be very different. Yeah. I definitely would. And it is definitely a hypothetical. And you never know, in the future we might have a little girl, but right now I want to keep doing this. Yeah. But that's one thing. And I think I've got a sister. I've got lots of friends that have got girls. My sister's got 4 girls now. So I have been around a lot where there are girls in the family and that. And I think what I see too is the girls generally are, even at a young age, more mature and more conscious of what they want to do or what they want to. I don't know if they sort of lead the parents a bit more. That's just what I've witnessed. I feel that. And it's true later in life too. Women mature way sooner than us, man. I think it actually starts younger.
Yes. Yeah. And younger now. I actually work with children and I've seen it as well through, yeah. The little girls getting makeup kits at 5 for Christmas, which seems all very innocent, but where does it go from there? Then they want to wear it at home, then they want to wear it out to the shopping centre. And at what point do you say, hey, hang on.
Wait a second. Yeah.
It is so tough. Whatever comes up in this conversation, I'm never criticizing parents because we all do the best we can with what we've got. And a lot of parents are working full time or got maybe in stressful relationships, and it's not easy. I mean, even if you had the idyllic relationship and no money worries, parenting still isn't easy. So, I just want to give a huge shout out to all the parents out there, mums and dads, because I know you're doing the very best that you can.
Yeah, all right. 100%.
ADHD. Now, this label's being thrown out more and more these days, and they're medicate our kids more and more. What are your thoughts around this?
You're right. It's a label, and it's a label sort of placed so then they can give their solution to it, which is generally medicating it. Even I'll go into PTSD and things like this. The labels that are expanded or amplified more to encompass more things, just so you can be categorized. And for that category, you have to have this.
Yes, because every label has a pharmaceutical solution, right?
100%. And even the way society is structured with the raise awareness for. I'm all for raising awareness. And ADHD goes into this. All the things, every label and real problems we have in society, they go into the awareness category. Let's raise awareness for this. Raise awareness. We're focusing on the problem. You've got ADHD. Let's raise more awareness about ADHD. Let's raise more awareness about that. So everyone's focused, oh my God, I've got similar things to that. So then more people get lumped into this category or label. And it has become prevalent. I look at coaching clients especially. As soon as they drop a label like that, I've got ADHD, it's a cover straight away. I feel it. It comes from a place of, I'm just going to say I've got ADHD, so he's going to be easy on me. I'm a hard-ass coach, so I cut through that stuff and I only work with certain people, and they're open to hear. But a lot of people aren't. A lot of people, as soon as they've got their label, they grab onto it because it's an identity.
Yes. And
it limits them. And I go back to when I was at school. I would have been like a great example of ADHD. I couldn't sit still. All I wanted to do was run around, and my concentration couldn't settle and all that because I was just in a place that was out of alignment. Now I look at it.
Yeah.
I was being indoctrinated, and my soul knew. Just something I look at, and you can bring in some of the health aspects too. Like I could really raise a polarizing topic around like vaccinations and things like this and what they do to the body. And without going too deep into it, I was vaccinated a lot as a kid, and talking to my mum these days, she noticed the very differences that happened to me after that. Emotionally, I did get sick a lot, and I think they play a big part in these things as well.
Yeah. we're just on YouTube, so we won't go too deep into that
Oh,
conversation. But I'm
pretty warning on that one.
total agreement with that. And I think that, I mean, that has been, for anyone who wanted to look into it deeper, that has been out of the past 3 years. So definitely a shift in the direction of people becoming more aware of the damage that those pharmaceuticals cause, and maybe the agenda behind it. So beautiful that you raised that, Steve. And the same, and I think this is also important to bring up, whatever you did with River, you had a new awareness. Now, I vaccinated my boys, gave them everything until the last one, 2010 was the last vaccines we ever had. And I didn't have the awareness. And I have to come to the forgiveness of, luckily they had no damage. I didn't notice anything. I pretty much had a smooth ride with those as far as boys go. But, it's just the awareness. I mean, would I do it now? Not in hell, but I did it then with the awareness that I had. So, parents that are in my situation, we always did the best that we could. And consciousness raises and awareness expands. So, and that's the journey. So beautiful that we've raised this awareness. Thank you, Steve. Okay, money. I mean, what does he get given money now? Pocket money? Does he have to earn it? What are your plans for him? He's old enough to get a part-time job. What are you going to do there?
Oh, I hope my wife doesn't watch this. Just kidding. One of the things I work through as a parent, because I truly believe we get to have it all. It's taken me a lot of inner work to get to that, but I believe we do. We're here to experience life to the fullest. Now, that can mean material things. That can mean adventures all the time and all this. And River and I do a lot of stuff together. I'm very conscious of what comes out of my mouth around money, number one. Before any plans with money with River, I'm very conscious of, because I'm an entrepreneur. The last 8 years, it hasn't been like this, smooth sailing. It's like this.
Yes.
I've played in the crypto space a lot. It's like this. So money has its challenges in my world, just from the way I operate in business. And there are risks that I take, and I've had some challenges over the years, and I'm very conscious of how I speak to River around things we're doing or we can't do. Yes. These days it's a lot easier for me because we live a very abundant life. But at the same time, one of the challenges I've had is when he wants something, without saying you can't have it, but saying you can't have it.
How do you do that?
It's hard. I don't know. It's always a challenge for me right now. It's like doing my best to educate him. It's like, hey, be grateful for this. Get the most out of this. If it's a toy, like let's play with this together more. Like he has so many toys. We ran a daycare here, right? So
yeah,
sort of double win. But now, like, doing my best to come from a place where I didn't have much as a kid. My mum and dad did the best they could, but it was really Christmas and birthdays. It was take you to sporting events. We don't have the money. So doing my best to not come from that place of I didn't have it as a kid, I want him to have it all, versus you get to have it all, but hey, let's learn a bit of stuff about it. Let's enjoy what we can have or what we can do. You go into a shop, and I play a game with him. It's pretty funny. I think it is. I don't know how this is going to backfire later in life, but I'm like, he'll want something, and then he'll grab it. He'll carry it up there. It might be just food. It might be just like a snack or something. It doesn't have to be like a toy. And he'll grab it. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, have you got the money to pay for that, buddy? He's like, I look at the cashier. I'm like, ask him if he's got the money, and he's like, where's your money, buddy? And he's like, in my dad's pockets. So I don't know where that's going to go. He's very conscious of it. I want him to have really good money beliefs, because one of the biggest things I see, especially working with clients, and a lot of the stuff I've had to work through and continue to work through, is around beliefs around money. Again, going back to my mum and dad, my dad worked his butt off. He did. Yeah, he could have been smarter with some more where he put his money, instead of maybe buying beer or smokes and all that. Maybe, but he absolutely did the best he could to provide. And I think he did a fantastic job under the circumstances. My mum, 4 kids, in and out of work, making ends meet, being a mum, still being a mum. She'll let go one day. She will, but it not being conscious of the beliefs that I've had to work through, understanding that he's modeling me anyway. He can feel what I'm feeling, so I've got to be congruent with what's coming out of my mouth. But coming from that place, I really don't have a actual plan, except I really wanting to have a good understanding of like value, of transfer of value, of appreciating things, of, and again, he gets to have it all. He does. Like I want him to understand that and believe that. And if you come from that place of like knowing you get to have it all in all areas, like it leaves you open to so much more. It's not limiting.
Yeah. I mean, I just did the sort of, I guess, old-fashioned system, whatever, you know, they had their pocket money, or they could earn stars on the fridge, and every star was worth 50 cents, which taught them really good to count and understand money. And they'd, you know, maybe read a couple of extra books. Sorry,
Yeah.
programming, but you need to read.
Yeah.
And, you know, they get another star. So if they wanted to go and buy something that was $5, they knew they had to read 10 books or something. You know, it was like they sort of earned it that way. And so they could spend what they had with pocket money. I mean, that worked for me. And I mean, everyone's got to work it out what it is, but they knew it wasn't sort of an unlimited resource from me, but I also taught them to manifest as well. So combining those two, that was, which, yeah, I don't know if it worked or not, but it's the best I could do at the time. Okay, anything else you want to say around money? How old is he going to go out and get a job at 16?
Oh, I feel he's going to be. He's got two entrepreneurs as parents.
Right.
We sort of live and think and act outside the box a bit. He's a little socialite, significance driven. He likes attention, and he's a lot of fun. And he's also very good with his hands and building things, and he concentrates, and he does love numbers. So the one thing I will say on money, I love numbers. I'm very good with numbers. I've got a good thing. He's good with numbers already. So whatever comes in around money, whether I do incentivize any of it, it might link into something that you're talking about, like the question around social media. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? In 10 years' time,
whatever dreams he has, whatever dreams he has, understanding like definitely my upbringing around a lot of the dreams I had were shunned or silly or outrageous or whatever. And then I'm like just open, like do what you love, what lights you up, and whether there's money value that's going to come your way, which I believe there will, we'll let it unfold. Let's see what happens. He might be by my side. He might not. He'll be like, Dad, I'm 14. You said when I was 14 I could leave the house. I'm going out in the world. I'm really unattached right now, and I really am in full trust.
Yeah. And again, the way that the world's changing, who knows in 10 years' time, you know, where we'll be. And, you know, but it's good to have this conversation. Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
His choice of sports and hobbies. What are you going to say if he says, Dad, I want to try ballet?
Oh, goodness. I will do my best to educate from a place of neutrality. This is a really good question. I love your questions because they are topics that I don't think right now in this day and age they need to be spoken about more from men, especially. I follow a really good man, Ryan Mickler, in the US, Order of Man, really good. I've done a bit of his stuff. He's really cool. Got a couple of good books out, and he's very strong on this, talking about being that rugged man or that wild man, being that, and like the things that you do in life, they really activate you on like a primal level. I think that's important for a man. And the sports we choose, look at our society in Australia. That's all I had growing up. Like I played footy for the school and footy for the local team. I played cricket for the school and cricket for the local team. I played golf at my local golf course. The sport non-sport. And I love running around. I love crashing and bashing. I love that. And I do see that with River. So I'm going to encourage that. Now, I would love him to play AFL. I just would, because then I know I can help him a bit more than him maybe playing rugby. But if he did go, I'm going to do ballet, he might say ballet. He loves dancing. I love dancing too, by the way. But he's a great little dancer. I'm going to encourage that totally. Yes. And there's nothing not masculine about that, because I already know that he's got the other wild part wired into him. I already see that. I don't have to push him into that. He pushes me. Like he likes that. So I'm open-minded, at the same time very conscious of the agenda, the agendas, very, very conscious of that. I'm very strong on what's taught in our schools at the moment and what's being pushed in social media and a lot of the things like that. And I would be coming from a place of educating. Mind you, I don't know if it's too early, River already knows that the government sprays the sky and the government's pretty bad. So we would probably have a conversation around, hey, let's just talk about like men and women or something like that. That's probably the way I'd play it.
Yeah, I love this. And we could get into this transgender agenda, but probably best to leave it at the moment. Okay, what about chores or jobs around the house? Does he have to tidy up his toys? Will he have to keep his room tidy? Will he have to do the dishes, mow the lawn? What's the agenda?
Another great one, and it's right in the middle of me teaching him something at the moment, because he is a messy little bugger. He's like his mum. She's terrible. She literally opens something on the bench and just leaves the wrapper there. I'm like, but anyway, we've got to a point in understanding. Now, we have a cleaner that comes twice a week, which is great. She's fantastic. And we've been commenting the last 2 weeks how River thinks she's here to clean up his mess. So I told him a story the other week, and I told my cleaner this story as well. So River knows I used to drive earth moving equipment and work in the mines and everything like that. And sometimes we'll watch a thing on YouTube called Opal Hunters or the Gold Hunters, and this, he loves it. They've got diggers and they're digging the ground, they're finding opals and crystals. And I'm like, Daddy used to drive that. Remember, there's pictures, he's seen me do that. And so I'm like, do you know the only thing I didn't like about the gold mining? I didn't do much gold mining, but he knows gold mining. I used to do iron ore, but they dig a really big hole in the ground, don't they? So I told him this story. They dig a really big hole in the ground. They go deep, deep, and they get all the shiny gold. They're all happy. They sell it or they make things with it. He's like, yeah, like on that show and all that. He gets that. I'm like, yeah, the only thing I don't like about it is when they've found all the gold, they leave the hole in the ground and none of the trees grow back and it's really messy. They leave old machines there and it's a bit sad. And so he's like, oh, yeah, the animals don't come back. So I really told a story. I'm like, do you want to be a gold miner with all your toys? Are you being a gold miner? So I dropped little things like, he's like, no. So he's starting to organize things. It doesn't mean he cleans it up perfectly and all this, but he's starting to organize things. And I just elaborate on the story. And it's not a lie. It's actually the truth, the story about a lot of mines. When they're finished, that's it.
Yeah.
They're done. And I think through little stories like that, I can see how it's a really good way to lead him. We're led by stories and narratives in life. All of us are. That's why we're so easily controlled and manipulated sometimes. Yeah. So I'm literally, that's one thing. And again, we live an abundant life. We prioritize our values and our work and everything. So we will have a cleaner. We will have someone to sort out stuff if it's going to like allow my queen and myself to do our work, have our time and have family time. The mess comes after that. We don't like living in mess. We don't, but we would prioritize other things in our life to sort that. And at the same time, he needs to learn. He needs to learn to respect things. The house, clean and tidy is important. So it'll be, I think it's one of the things that, like I say, I'll do my best and lead it my way and trust that it works. If it doesn't, well, maybe he'll leave it till he's living with a woman and then he learns. I don't know.
All right. Well, so you've got a clean that comes twice a week, but is she there to, when you cook a meal in the evening, to pack the dishwasher, clean up the kitchen, make the beds every day? These little things are you going to get River to do any of those, or do you guys just do it and let him roll?
I don't make my bed. I don't like a made bed. I would actually be happy to sleep on the ground sometimes. That's me. So I'm not going to, for me, I'm not going to teach him to do something if it's not man's out. For me, it's not congruent. It's out of integrity for me. But if there is someone coming around and all that, like nanny or something, I'll be like, yeah, it'd be really good to have the room neat or have your stuff in order or have your bed made or anything. Again, it's definitely something I'm conscious of because I definitely don't want him to be lazy. It's not my focus. Again, I want him to show respect for his things and organizing stuff. Like he plays with Legos a lot. So comes back to the mess stuff again. Like I build him a little cupboard with drawers and stuff. We build it together and a table and I go, hey, I'm doing this so you can organize stuff and keep things neat. So that's probably going to be more the thing. Chores, I don't even like the word. I'm like, you're going to come and help dad. You're going to come and mow the lawn. He'll come and do it if he wants to. Have a bit of fun.
Yeah,
that's going to be my way to, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. What about cooking? Is it important he learns to cook?
Yeah, fish in the bush and steak like dad. That's an interesting one. He does love, and this is what I love about the relationship he's got with Chi, his mum, because every now and then he loves getting on the bench and mixing stuff up and cooking. He won't eat half of it because he's seen, but he loves the process. Right. So I actually think he would actually enjoy, like, once he expands what he actually eats. He doesn't eat a whole range of things: tuna fish, noodles, rice, and chicken. That's where he is at the moment, but they will be easy to sort out. But I can actually see him enjoying something like that.
Yeah, okay. So if he enjoys it, lovely. Yeah, well, that's the best way to learn, isn't it?
Yeah.
May I ask what happens within your dynamics with your lovely wife if you disagree on some aspect of parenting?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes we will definitely have words, and we're normal parents. We don't agree on everything. We're humans too. We have different models of the world. We can have strong words, and I think where we are at a point with communication, and again, we don't hide it. If River's there, River's there. We don't, oh, let's talk about this later. We're like straight up, where we're very expressed. She understands that I'm openly expressed. I process things on the outside. She already understands that now. It's taken a bit to do that. I won't keep a thought in my head. She gets that, and then she will have her comeback or whatever it is to either say, hey, go and process this, or are you sure you want to talk about this now? Or yeah, she won't bite at me or anything like that. We've got a good understanding there, and vice versa. We're just really, I think we're getting really good at how we communicate things when we're triggered and we don't see things our ways, and we do always come together. Right now, River's 4.5. School. We have different ideas about this stuff.
Right. Okay.
So for nearly 2 years when lockdowns happened, we started running a kindy here. It was hush, but we had parents in the community. They were coming into our house and everything like that. And then what I realized for that was, like, because I'm very vision orientated of the future and how the world is, like, maybe there's a lessons in this one. I'm like, hey, I get to create something out of this, and this would be great for River. We can get tutors or teachers and all this. There's an abundance of them. And in that journey over the last couple of years, we didn't agree on a lot of things around how that, because it was like, holy shit, this is a big step. Schools, we both don't want him indoctrinated. We don't want him exposed to certain elements of that in a controlled environment. It's okay to be exposed to these in the open world. We don't want to actually decide to put him in a school that he's coming home and he's asking questions around stuff that's like, but I don't know. There's parts to that I just don't like, and we both agree on. But it's going forward, what options? We don't want him homeschooled by himself. He's a social kid. He needs that interaction. Now we pay a nanny. He's got friends, 4.5. But the next year, I feel we're going to have some more conversations around what we see and what we want for him, because we know the benefit of him going to school. But it's one thing now that's, for us, we don't agree on. We don't. I want him to go and play sport and stuff. And she's like, oh, I want him to do this. So we just keep this backwards and forwards. And I know at one point, we'll just get to a point and like, actually, you know what? Let's just go with that and let's see what happens.
Who gets the final word?
I don't think we have a final word.
Okay.
It might be, if I'm triggered, to be like, oh, you always get your way. Or she might be like, oh, you always got to be the one who gets it, whatever like that. But both of us, we sort of need to agree. And it's not from sacrifice. I think it's from understanding.
If it was totally up to you and your wife was in full agreement, what's your ideal scenario with educating River starting from next year?
Well, starting from next year, I'm glad.
At the moment, I'm not talking about something hypothetical with what the system and availability we've got in Australia?
I think we're at the point now where we're looking into certain schools that are not connected to the system. I would have gone down the Steiner line until the last 2 years played out. That sort of rattled my view of that, and where the tentacles are into that system as well, even though their philosophy is really good. But in the area we are in Northern Rivers, New South Wales, there is actually a good range of options where I think a smaller school environment next year, see how it goes. Unattached, we're both cool if he moves around. He can make friends with kids like that if he wants. Oh, and also he'll choose not to be friends with kids. He's very independent. He's really strong like that. So that's not a fear of ours either, because I know that could come into it. Like, I want him to have the same group of friends and grow up and feel comfortable. I reckon he'll be fine if we traveled the world and went to different schools for the next 15 years. I really do believe that. But I think we're in a great environment where we are. We're in great communities, Northern Rivers, New South Wales. There are a lot of conscious people. And there's a lot that are already taking steps to remold education, I could say. Still having the important parts, the English, the maths. I think the maths and numbers is really important. English, just like for writing and that, I think it's still very, very important. Sporting stuff, I think that's activity. I think that's extremely important. Fun, play. So I think that one's going to unfold, and I know it's going to bring up a lot more polarizing views from both myself and Titania, and even our friends in that too, because we talk about this stuff with our friends. We're all very different models of the world. I found this out in the last 18 months, doing my best to manage a kindy here, dealing with parents and nannies. I got my eyes wide open. I'm like, holy shit, I'm very, very unique and different in this space.
Yeah, so many different opinions. And again, everyone just does the best they can with the resources they have. Okay. Sex education, has it started? When's it going to start? How's it going to develop along his teenage years?
Oh, this is such an interesting one without putting the sex education. Now, I think it just starts like with him being okay with his body, eh? That's what I'm sort of feeling with. I know growing up, I had a lot of shame and stuff like that, and it took me a lot. I've had to work a lot on intimacy and all this sort of stuff in a relationship. And it wasn't until my late 30s that I actually got to work on that. So he's already well advanced on understanding his body a bit more. We talk about how he was born. We have a joke about it. He was named, like he was like, he was conceived in below Wallerman Falls in northern Queensland, an amazing waterfall, random thing. And we tell him the story of like how it happened without too much detail, but it's like this opening into, this is like, we love each other very much, and this is how you come into the world. So that's going to be the same sort of thing, and it's going to be an introduction to that, and it's definitely not going to be the schooling system that does it. I remember at my school, I think I was like grade 5, and they brought out these books, and I just was like, and it had a teacher, nothing personal, the dude probably was still not educated himself.
Right.
So it was a weird thing. I remember it clearly because it was weird. And it was like, so I think for River, I think, again, he's a very free, open soul. And I think if we also take on board that our kids already know anyway, we already knew when we were brought into the world, like, I think it's a natural evolution. And then just being, I don't know, giving him a nudge every now and then, or dropping a story, or I think that's going to be a really easy path. I think it's actually going to be easy with River.
Yeah, well, it sounds like, you're very comfortable doing it. I remember with mine, I had 2 totally different reactions. I thought, I want to tell them the actual, the process before they hear it in the school playground. So I sort of timed it around 7, 8, 9, whatever. I had one that was in like complete shock. And I had one when it was his time that I remember it was at dinner time, I think, and he just went under the table on his back and just couldn't stop laughing. So he was
Oh,
in hysterics laughing. So one in shock and one in hysterics. But I wanted to get to it before, they heard in the playground, which God, as they could even hear it in daycare. It's like, what do you know? You just got to roll with what you've got when you think it's appropriate. Okay, what about girls and dating?
he's gonna be a ladies' man, I reckon. I don't know what that means, but he again, he's a very right now, he's 4.5. He's a very independent character. He's very strong in himself. Um, I'm not sure about that one. I feel it's going to be similar to parenting now. The last thing I want to do is try and give my experience from when I was a teenager. Either do this or don't do this, because I had a terrible experience as a teenager. Like, I really found it difficult to interact with girls, and that I was like very withdrawn and couldn't do it. That was really, really hard for me. So I know I don't want to come from the place of like, I was like this as a teenager, so don't be like me. Or he's from my trauma, I would be like, trust yourself, man. Like, he's got to learn somehow too. He's got to have the experience without having. It's like anything. I'll tell a client, like, without having a preconceived idea of how something's going to be, the only way you can have that is if someone tells you their model of what happened to them, then it puts an idea in your head. You're expecting something.
Yes.
And you go into that expecting something, it's more likely either going to manifest or you're going to get the polar opposite. So what if he could approach the teenage years, hearing bits and pieces, but be like, just get to experience it. If you need guidance or you need help or you need some wisdom, then
Yes. Okay.
be okay. Just know it's a safe or comfortable place. I'm happy to talk about it too.
Yeah.
I think that's how I'm going to be. It might change, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Even if you tell a positive story, then they've got that expectation. And if their reality doesn't match that, okay, how are you going to teach him to deal with rejection? And not
Ooh.
just from girls, but in life as general.
Oh, this I could frame this. I have learned so much with sales and objections and everything like this. I think it's similar. I've already been talking about negotiating. Like, from an early age, I taught him the word how do you negotiate, which was like, if you wanted something, like, how do you negotiate? You got to stand up tall. You got to smile, but you got to feel it. So I've already been teaching him that part of it. I think the rejection thing's happening now with toys. Well, you can't have that. No. I feel like I'm learning how to somehow educate him on that now. It's not about you. This rejection or this no is not about you. It's just about, like, where is this coming from for you? So, and again, I would want him to experience rejection in life. Well, how else is he going to learn about it? You can tell him one thing, but I do want him exposed to that. Now, again, and I think it comes back to, if I'm showing up believing that I can have it all in life, and he's modeling that, and he gets rejected, well, it's going to bring the scenario for him. It's like, well, was dad wrong? Or does he get to grow through this and go, oh, sometimes it doesn't go my way, but this situation wasn't about me, or it was about me, and I wasn't being very nice or of the highest, or whatever, however old his in understanding is. So it's another thing where, if I can just let the reins off and trust and just be there as someone to support, be there where he knows he can come and, like, speak to me about things if he gets rejected, be it friends. I see it play out now where he's not welcoming some of their little things sometimes because he wants to do it his way, or I see it now, but I definitely don't go and intervene. It's like, hey, I'm here if you want to chat, buddy. What's up?
Yeah. I like that. That's great, because, and this was raised also in another conversation recently, where boys learn, young men, the masculine learns through challenges, and often we see our children going through challenges, and as parents, it's really hard for us not to help or help too much. Like, what are your feelings around this, especially with boys? Like, if he was, for example, being bullied, or, just going through normal teenage boy and I've got some specific questions here around the teenagers, challenges. At what point do you intervene and help him, even if he comes to you? And what point do you let him be initiated into the world?
It's interesting. No one's okay for their child to be hurt or anything like that. I'll come from that point. But at the same time, how else, if we're not confronted with something that might be physical from another kid, or might be just abuse or being mean or anything like that, they need to be able to feel that sometimes to be able to actually get some sort of lesson from it. Now, if a kid was bashing him, of course, but it hasn't happened yet, of course I'm going to intervene. I'll expect any parent to intervene, but it wouldn't be from a place of like going at the other kid. It'll be like, come over here, whatever it is, as long as he's not hurt. It'll be like, remember all them times we wrestle? Because I talked to him about this. When we're wrestling, we were having a Arakan teacher come in here and teach the kids little bits, Arakans and martial art, bits of self-defense, things like this. Already educating them on, hey, sometimes you're going to need to protect yourself. Sometimes there's going to be boys or kids out there that are mean. They're going to be there. That's okay. But you've got to be strong in this. It doesn't mean you have to go and fight them or anything. At the same time, I do tell him every now and then, punch the kid in. If you feel like someone's like overstep your boundary and say, I don't like that, be okay to stand your ground. And if you need to defend yourself and punch him in the tummy, I'm okay with that. I am. I'm okay. Now, some parents out there might be, oh, you're encouraging violence. I'm like, no. Well, what is a man? A man's got to be, we can be physical, especially when it comes to presiding over our kingdom, our inner kingdom, our physical body. What does the unconscious want us to do anyway? Keep us safe. So if you're matching that with what you tell the body to keep yourself safe, you've got some skill. I'm all for that with him too. And that's going to be a journey, getting martial arts, whatever, just to be strong in himself, to be disciplined with that too. I think, again, he's going to encounter bullies. He's going to encounter kids that are different. I was the smallest at school for years and years. And I was the most angry and the loudest and most emotional. I was an easy target. And I'm grateful for that too, because I got so many lessons now that I can look back, and I never ever went into, okay, the bullies were mean to me, and I never held on to that. I'm like, it's something that really carved me, that molded me, that gave me experience on, I was a victim and I did play that card when I was a kid, but it didn't make things better. When I learned to be strong in myself and back myself and be confident in myself and learn some skills around defending myself, and that's when I was no longer the victim. So I feel that I'm going to do my best to lead him through that, and encourage him to be okay, to be strong, and be okay if there is a physical threat to look after himself. Like, yeah. And if he does get hurt, and if he does like cop it, I'm like, shit happens. It's like, serious. What can you learn from this?
Yeah. Is it like if a boy had a really easy life, great family life, breeze through school with no challenges, what sort of man would that make? I mean, it's tough. Like, does an easy life make a great man?
Well, I had a mate when I first got into personal growth and development. We were into really strong men's work, really confronting. And I had a mate, he's a good mate of mine, and a lot of us were telling stories about we've been drug, alcohol, me, violence, and all this sort of stuff, really tough, hard life, hard upbringing, all that sort of stuff. And I remember him sitting there one day going, I'm not like you guys. My life's been epic, but I'm sitting here now. I'm like here to improve myself and work on myself. And it's like he was wanting the initiation then. And not all men are like this. Most men will stay away from that. I've had an easy life, and they might live an easy life. Good on them. But I really feel in society today, the strong men that are coming through more predominantly have had really strong initiations through their life, through really strong challenges. I'm not saying that you need to have it, but I think where we are right now, the group of men that are coming through have that. Yes. And we need that for society. We need that experience or them to be initiated, because we are currently faced with a huge shift. And at the center of that shift, I believe, is men. I believe is strong men. And I don't think having an easy life creates weak men as such. I don't believe that. I don't. I've had my mate massive respect to him to really own the fact that he was like, I don't have that, but he is a strong man. He is a leader. He's doing great things.
Nice.
So,
yeah. Yeah, I just wanted your perspective around that because, you know, I've often thought of it with my own children because they had a relatively easy upbringing, even though, you know, they had some challenges, but they weren't bullied or they weren't, you know, there was no major dramas. And so I often wonder if they'd had it tougher, even though they're great young men, but, you know, just thoughts that come up around raising boys. Okay, little River is now a teenager and he comes home smelling of alcohol. What
this is an interesting one. Well, it's an interesting one because we don't drink, so we don't interact in them environments. We really don't. It's a really interesting one, and I definitely will be telling him. And I do mention every now and then that I never used to be the best and do things that were not very good and stuff. There will definitely be a time where I do talk to him about how I used to be. I think it's a place where my experience will actually be there, but not from a place of don't do this. Again, he's going to be a teenager. I joke with my friends and even my wife that when he's 12, he's off. He's going walkabout. He's out. He's in the world.
Once they're in high school, I always say you got to do all your parenting before high school. Because once they get to high school, they're off with sleepovers and they're independent and, you know, they're coming home for dinner and laundry, but sleeping. But, you know, if you haven't done your solid boundaries and good parenting before high school, yeah, I don't know.
It's the same again. He needs to experience certain things. And one thing I do have, it's like even with not my son, with my clients, I have experience now in that realm for many, many years and the path it led. I'll share one thing. I run a men's group with my peers, and we talk about topics around many different things, parenting that. But we had one topic around it was a very polarizing one about having multiple partners. Now, for me, I love my queen. I'm very clear on my model of the world and everything. And I have one guy on there who wanted to be with others, and one of the men got in there, a very close friend of mine. He goes, that's great. You need to experience what this, you've got the desire, the urge, you need to experience. But in my experience, that was the hardest road I've ever been on. And I always saw the other path there that I could have taken. But for some reason, I was stuck in this other path and I needed to learn many lessons for many years. He goes, you can learn many lessons for many years if you want, or you can actually be true to yourself and what you truly want and do the work around that now. And you're going to still get the experience, but you're going to find what is more in line. I just sat there and I listened to how he said it. He didn't say, don't do that.
Yeah.
You can do that. I've got the experience, social proof. You can go there. And same with River. I've got the experience. If you want to drink, man, sweet. Yes. As the opposite of my dad, too. My dad did never talk about it. I had one time where I told my mum and dad where I was like addicted to drugs. I was freaking out. I was paranoid. I was in my mid-20s and I just broke down because I was a little bit out of control. Apart from my work, my job, the rest of my life was, I remember doing that. And my dad never knew how to talk to me about it, never knew how to engage. It's like, what do we do to fix it now? It's like just that, and it's a man thing, fix that mentality. But I remember that too. And I don't want him to be any different, but it's one thing where I can improve on with River. Is go, I've got experience. I want to talk to you about it from an unattached place. If you think it's fun, what I'm saying, go and experience. If you want to go down there, cool. I learned some really hard lessons in life, and that's how I'm going to go with him.
Yeah. I'll bring up marijuana, and when you've had your say, I feel it's important for me to also add a little story from my experience with my boys. As I say, this is mainly about you, but I do feel is important. So, okay, marijuana. What's your opinion around teenagers smoking marijuana?
I got to witness a lot of my mates go very downhill in their teenage years, even though I was doing the same in a different manner. But I got to witness marijuana in a different thing, and I saw very vibrant, enthusiastic, creative, energetic young men have no energy, have no life, no enthusiasm, and really get stuck. And some of them they've died. They've got into heavier stuff. So that's one thing that I actually didn't like from my own experience. At the same time, I'm surrounded by people now that love having a joint every now and then. Some of them work with the medicine and this sort of thing. And they are beautiful, amazing, happy, creative people. So I would probably be doing my best to be very unattached to that conversation, because I do have strong beliefs around it. And the last thing I want to do is to try and imprint them beliefs on River from my experience growing up. And what I've seen, I definitely would talk about it, but it'd be really unattached. And if he wants to, I'd be fine. Right. You go back to what you said. If we give them a good foundation growing up of boundaries, respect, like their energy, their body, like you get to have whatever you want and all that. If we bring them up the best we can around that, I think when it comes to these choices around this, they're going to have some sort of internal guide. Yes. They're going to be in tune with their intuition and say, hey, wait a second, just you want to have a look at this? Is this something that serves you? Yeah.
You know what the tough thing is, and I'll get into this story, it's when they do start experimenting, say, with alcohol or with marijuana or maybe other substances. You don't know if it's going to be a little temporary thing where they're experimenting and they decide against it, or they're going to get deep into it. And that's the worry, isn't it? So my story is with my youngest. He got into marijuana probably about years 9 or 10, which is what, 15, 16 here in Australia. And I was so upset at the time because it's not something I use. I have tried a couple of times, but it just doesn't do anything for me. And I was really upset, but I thought, okay, I've got two options here. He's going to do it either way. So he can either do it here in our garage and have a sort of teenage hangout that he's allowed to do it there. He's at home, you know, at some point he's got his independence, but he's still, you know, within my sort of wings, I guess, or helicopter rotors, however you want to see it, or he's going to go and do it somewhere else if I totally say, you know, don't do that. And he did, and he got quite heavy into it, like over the years during the school holidays, you know, like, and it would really upset me, but what could I do? I don't know. I was just had to ride it out. And then it got to a point where he came to his own realization that he was actually probably a bit deep in this. And I'm pretty sure he did experiment with another couple of things, but we did talk about it. And I did keep the conversation going. And he said, you know, he did, but he was mainly with the marijuana. And at a certain point, he started just taking more care of his life. Like he finished school and he went out and got a job and he started going to the gym, and he actually got less and less on it. And now it got to a point, he tried to give it up, but then he ended up always needing one before he went to sleep, or he couldn't sleep. And it sort of just, I saw it, as long as I saw it spiraling up, like he was heading in the right direction, I was like always really supportive. And then it came to, he wanted to go and do the snow season in Japan this season. He's there now. Yeah. And of course, Japan is so strict, even with marijuana, you'd end up in jail or God knows what else. And he knew that before he went. And so he went over there in, what are we now? In November, I think he went over. And of course, he had to quit it completely. And I say, how you doing, mate, without it? And he said, wow, it was so easy, easier than I expected it to be. But that was tough because I didn't know those 5 years that he was smoking. I didn't know what direction it was going to go. And more than smoking, like a bong, you know, like it broke my heart to go up in the garage and see him doing it. But I didn't know what else to do. But luckily, it's worked out well. I don't know what you can say around that.
It's, again, and it's like, it's meeting a need. This is, if I like it, anything when we take up alcohol or a drug or smoking or marijuana, it's meeting some sort of need that serves us in that time. Yes. Now, your example's great of where he went to Japan. He found something that he was going to do where he had to give it up, where he wanted to do something more, and he found it easy because now he's met the need that he wanted, which is more stronger than that. Now, again, if you're open to just talk about it and they've got choice in life and everything like that, they're going to, I believe, trust. It was the same when I went to the mines. If I didn't go to the mines, they had breathalyzer every morning and drug tests to even be accepted. Right. If they didn't have that, if I didn't want to be there so bad, who knows? Right. that's what helped me give everything up. Not going to see a counselor, not doing the inner work. No, that was the thing. I wanted to be in the mines and earn that money and have the significance so bad that they had to fall away. It wasn't easy. So I feel the same. If we bring up our kids where they know they've got choice, where they know it's okay to experience things, where they know it's okay to approach us when we do have experience, and they trust and know that we're not trying to make them avoid something because of our mistakes or anything, I think the conversation happens. Again, it would be, I think, silly for me to go, okay, 10 years from now, and River comes to me and think I know what I'm going to do either. Like, I am just going to do the best I can. And again, environment's big too. Like, I think about this, and we don't restrict him from environments, but the environments Chi and I spend our time in, we love that and enjoy that, and I know he models that energy too. And I really just see that maybe he's going to understand the power of environment too when he's at that age, and the environments he gets in, and again, learn his own lessons. And again, just know that I'm just here to say, hey, if you want to chat to me, just know that I might even encourage you. I'm not gonna.
If I'd have come to you when he was, say, in the midst of this, say about 18, and explain, look, my son's, he's into pod, and, he's, hanging out in the garage with his mates, and they're all encouraging each other. And, what would you have said to me? Because I didn't know at that point which direction it was going to go in.
Well, if you've come to me without them knowing, so it's about you. That would be the first thing. So I would be asking questions about you. What's coming up for you?
Yes.
What are your fears? What are your worries? What are your doubts?
Yeah.
But now, if he had said, hey, Mum, I don't know what I'm doing here. Can you, maybe you've got some good friends, can you just have a chat to him about this? I'm like, I know you feel like I'm in it, but then I'd be like, okay, cool. It's like, it sounds like he's interested in maybe exploring what's going on here or anything. It'd be like, all right, cool. Maybe is he open to having a chat, or is he open for some like guidance from you? It'd be something like that.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
And I love that. And I was aware of that, with my sort of, awareness of life, and, that everything's about us as individuals. But that was a great reminder. And for parents out there, if we're upset with something, it's always good to look inside about why we're upset about something, because at the end of the day, I mean, my views now is his highest self chose that experience for him as a type of initiation, a challenge. The fact that he's overcome it himself, I remind him all the time, look how amazing you are, like you overcame that and you did it yourself. And all the time, I was always encouraging him. So I love that you brought that up. Thank you, Steve. Okay, I did have a couple of other things. I think we probably covered them all. So what are your final words around this, Steve, around strong fatherhood?
I think in society, we're at a point now where men, we really have some models, but we've got to really tune in to be the best versions of ourselves first, and be strong with ourselves, feel whole within ourselves, and come from that place and own our physicality. I think own our physical body, own the fact that it doesn't matter how we're built physically, but if we own that and in our power, and know that I believe men are hardwired to be strong, and we come back to that, and then we come from that strength within ourselves and be a strong father, whatever comes from that. Be conscious that it's not coming from your hurt or your trauma. We can have experience from that, but do the work around that, because that is going to help you be whole and strong in yourself as well. And just know that no matter how you are with your kids, they're choosing anyway. They're modeling you, whether it's right or wrong. Let go of the attachment that you're doing it right or wrong. Do your best.
Nice. Yeah, I love it. And as you said, example. And this is another thing, even though as a single mum with two boys, I was so aware of, like, even driving down the road, you're aware of, how you're driving, because if you're speeding or you're being a bit crazy, I know that those boys in the back one day are going to have their license, and I don't want to be responsible if they have a crash and they're speeding. Oh, where did they learn that speeding was okay from? I don't know. I just didn't want that responsibility on me. If they speed now it's their choice. It's not my modeling. That's the difference,
Yeah.
right? And I love what you also said about, you know, like this being aware of the example we're giving, especially around money, the narrative. You know, are we saying that, oh, money doesn't grow on trees? Or are we saying, you know, money's the root of all evil, all these things, you know, or can we say, oh, yeah, we can have whatever we want. You know, I'll teach you how to manifest. I'll teach you how to be an entrepreneur. I'll teach you how to create that. You know, there's so much around the narrative and around our examples as human beings. And again, we're not perfect. We're on our own healing journey, but you know, just the intention and of who we are is the biggest teaching tool for our children.
Awesome. This has been so good. You've asked some amazing questions as always today.
I love this conversation too. Thank you so much, Steve. It's been really awesome. I love you know, your thoughts around fatherhood and just your honesty and willing to, you know, not have to fit into the society's box, to want to do it your way, but in a strong, integral way. So
thank you. I really appreciate that.
awesome. Everyone, if you could like, share, subscribe, and I'll be back in another couple of days with Man Speak. No, Heart Warriors. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you, Steve. Bye. All right.